I'm hurriedly trying to catch up on all the news from this morning.
It's been a busy day.
Yeah, and I didn't realize until about 10 minutes ago when I saw you updated the show notes, because I hadn't actually checked the news yet this morning. And then it's like, bam, 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 all the biggest topics for today happened while I was asleep.
Well, hopefully I'm able to maintain a connection with you for the next hour or so.
What's happening?
I finally decided to put Big Sur on my podcasting Mac.
Nice.
I haven't had any issues so far, so I'm pretty confident that it's going to be just fine. But this will be the real test.
Well, we'll cross my fingers for you. Or press my thumb, as they say in German.
Press your thumb.
Yeah. Imagine you have it make a fist, and then you like press your thumb into your index finger, and that's the cross your fingers in German.
Interesting.
Yeah. A little bit odd.
I've been meaning to ask this in the past. Is your home like a bilingual household?
It is very bilingual. Yeah. You'll hear 50% English and maybe slightly less, and roughly 50% German.
So are you fairly fluent in German?
Fluent enough to talk to a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old, but I couldn't hold a conversation with Yasmin for very long.
Sure.
I could get by.
That's super exciting, though. Like, for your kids to grow up bilingual, that's going to be really a big advantage for them.
Yeah, and also because one side of the family's grandparents don't really speak English, although Yasmin's dad is pretty good with English, but her mum, like, less English than I have German. So it'd be good. And also it gives them the opportunity to maybe go and do school in Germany at some point if they wanted to.
Right.
They'll be German citizens, so
oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, Hannah's already has a German passport.
Okay.
Things like, I think it's university, or maybe, it must be uni. It costs a lot less in Germany, or maybe it's even free. I'm not sure. But
nice.
Yasmin says it's better than doing it here if you're a German citizen.
I believe it. Most of those European schools have really great reputation. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I should probably put the money aside. It's more about the reputation and what you're actually learning, right? Here I am focused about what it's going to cost.
Right. And I see you've switched your avatar over.
Yeah, new avatars, hey? So the audience can see them on the YouTube channel, I guess. They're not going to be anywhere on the podcast. But you had some commissioned?
Yeah, I like to browse Fiverr occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so many talented people on there, and I'm always, I don't know, I'm never looking for anything specific, but I'm always looking for an excuse to throw money at talented people to see what they do.
Okay. Fair enough.
So I found someone who they said they did this specifically for podcasts, but they just draw cartoon characters of people. So I sent them a couple pictures of you and me, and they sent them back to me, and they look awesome, I think.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have a plan for them in mind. I've switched most of my profile pictures over to that because I like it so much. And then it's our cover photo on Twitter and on YouTube. So I'll have to come up with some other creative use. Maybe in our YouTube podcasts, I'll have like our faces in the video or something. I don't know yet.
Yeah, sure. Why not? It's good to put a face to a voice.
Yeah, maybe something a little more interesting to look at than just our cover art for an hour and a half.
Should we talk about topics, since we do have quite the list of topics to go through now?
Yeah, let's jump into it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As I said before, all the big stuff has happened in the last 12 hours.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Man, I had boring topics about selling out of 5K displays, downloading macOS 8 as an app, and then suddenly we've got new iMacs. We've got Phil Schiller stepping down, which is what you wrote, which is what I agree with. It's not how Apple worded it.
Right.
And a new beta of iOS 14.
Right. Have
And
you
a
gotten a
TikTok.
chance to catch up on all that?
I have. I had about 10 minutes before I sat down to record, and I skimmed everything. But you might have to do the heavy lifting and take us through exactly what's going on. Should we start with new iMacs though?
Yeah, definitely the big news of the day. So the first thing that I'd like to comment on, jumping into the iMac update, is our old favorite leaker John Prosser. He kind of disappeared from Twitter for a good month after WWDC, when a lot of his predictions ended up not being true. And he's sent out a couple tweets in the last few days, and then this morning he put his very overly confident, like, "Sorry, Tim," and then like a winky face tweet, and then and then followed up a few minutes later with new iMacs coming in the next 5 minutes. And then the press release came out and he's like, "See, told you."
I don't know if you can predict something 5 minutes away and call it a prediction. It's far too close. If you've got, little watching things on Apple's side, or I don't know where else you would have them, then, stuff has to come out at some point. Some stuff has to be published, like images have to go up for the article to exist. And some of it would have to be up there ahead of it, by a couple of minutes, all right? Apple's probably proofing it, making sure it looks good.
Yeah, they've got probably like a staging endpoint that everything's hosted on immediately prior to going live.
Yeah, exactly. And if you've got something that keeps an eye on whatever that platform is or whatever that service is where stuff's hosted, then you're going to catch something 5 minutes out. And I don't think you deserve any publicity or respect for that sort of prediction.
Well, he definitely did get the publicity, because he immediately tweeted that it was coming out, and then I saw at least Mac Rumors immediately publish an article saying, "Apple leaker John Prosser says new iMacs are coming," and then it was less than a minute after that article went live that the iMacs themselves were updated.
Oh, God. Sometimes I just hate the Apple rumor mill, and this is one of those instances. And sorry, Tim. Yeah, sorry for what? For, I don't know. I guess they may have stolen the limelight within the Apple rumor mill, but just to the general tech news community, I doubt anyone paid any attention to it, especially considering that the real news came out so soon after.
Right. Yeah, it's a very very cocky to predict something 5 minutes beforehand and act like you did something impressive.
Yeah. I wonder if that stuff gets to Apple, to Tim Cook and that.
Well, I know that Phil Schiller has John Prosser blocked on Twitter.
Actually, I do too. Probably why I didn't see it.
Oh, you do?
Yep.
I follow him just so we can have these discussions about how annoying he is.
That's probably the wise thing to do, considering we do talk about him fairly regularly.
Yeah, he does seem to be on the forefront of Apple rumors right now. But on to these iMacs. This will be what I am almost 100% confident is going to be the last iteration we see with this design language and with Intel processors.
Ah, that's a big call. So both the design and the Intel... Well, yeah, the Intel processors is a given, but also the design.
I mean, there's been rumors going around for the better part of this year that the iMacs were going to have a redesign to look more like the iPad Pro.
Bezel shrinking and whatnot.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of people were hypothesizing that we'd see it with this Intel refresh and they put ARM in it later, but that would seem silly to me. I think it'd be better to introduce the redesign at the same time you have this whole new architecture.
It would not make sense to have an iMac that looked brand new and to have an Intel processor in it. Right. It would be confusing, I think, to the market, people who are buying it. Imagine if you go into the shop and imagine in like 6 months when there are Intel iMacs out and they've probably got, Apple Silicon, iMacs out. There will be a very clear distinction between, I'm just going to call ARM and Intel, if one has like big bezels and square corners and looks like this. And then on the other hand, you've got the new ones in quotes, rounded corners, small bezels, and whatever else is coming. And the salespeople can just say, well, these are the new ones and these are the old ones. And you could visually see that they're different. And also the salesperson might have to then explain exactly, if the person's interested, what makes them different inside as well. Whereas if there was some crossover between design and internals, I imagine that's a trickier thing to explain and something that the general consumer is just going to gloss over quite quickly.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a win-win, like you said. There needs to be some kind of external way to tell that they're different internally. And also just that this is the newer and better one. This new design will obviously look much more modern than the huge bezels we've had for the last 10 years on the iMacs.
Can't wait to see what they look like, though. The new ones.
Oh, I know. I hope they have a redesign kind of across all their Macs as they introduce the ARM variants for that exact reason. Just so you can tell which ones are the newer and better ones.
And I really hope that rounded corners are a thing and one of the distinguishing features. I don't know why, but when I see square corners, it looks old-fashioned, which seems silly because I knew they used to be round corners and then it went to square.
Right.
But coming from an iPad Pro, the round corners look just, I guess, more, I don't know, more futury. Square seems old-fashioned. I don't really know how to explain it better than that.
Yeah, it's hard to describe because I want to say that it allows for a more edge-to-edge display, but at least it allows for that feel, when in reality you're actually losing a handful of pixels in every corner by rounding it off. But it definitely looks better, more like it's, I don't know, in some kind of design symmetry with the actual enclosure.
And combined with the fact that it's going to come with smaller bezels, it's just going to look beautiful, no doubt about that. But here we are talking about the next iMacs, and we've got a new one sitting right in front of us.
Right, and this is no slouch. If you have a workload that really depends on x86 architecture and you're not sure everything's going to carry over, this is a great last Intel iMac to buy, in my opinion. This will probably carry you easily for years and years.
So you're not predicting there's going to be an iMac Pro coming out then with Intel stuff?
Well, the iMac Pro also got bumped today.
Did it? Okay. See, here's where my 10 minutes of reading has let me down. Give me the news.
You want me to go straight to iMac Pro?
Okay, maybe not. But good to know.
So for the basics, for the main feature of the iMac update, the 27-inch iMac, this is kind of the big news to me. They finally went to a 1080p camera.
No. Yeah. 1080p in 2020? That's unheard of.
What it looks like is it's the same camera the iMac Pro has. It's always had a 1080p camera.
Where did they find the space in a 27-inch computer to put a 1080p camera? They really are pushing the boundaries.
Well, apparently they couldn't find the space in the 21-inch iMac, so...
No, you're joking. It's still got 720.
Right.
Especially considering that so many people work from home. You'd think that in 2020, if you're going to put out a new computer, you would at least spend a couple of days focusing on how can we get a high-definition camera into a computer. I've opened up plenty of iMacs, and I can tell you there's space in there for it.
Oh yeah, plenty of space. That's the feature they have to save for the redesign, though, James.
Yeah, it hurts, though. People are going to buy these and keep them for... Yeah, iMacs last a long time. A long, long time. People keep iMacs for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. Imagine in 2030, someone's rocking a 2020 iMac and they're still happy with it. And they're talking to you on a 720p camera. It's going to be practically black and white in comparison.
Yeah, the iMac I'm using right now to record the podcast is from 2015. And I opened it up and I replaced the Fusion drive with an SSD. and I added some more RAM, and it's a completely usable modern computer. You wouldn't even know that it's 5 years old.
My computer too is 5 years old, I guess, although it was produced a few years after that. But yeah, spec-wise, 2015. I don't know what camera's in it, but I'm sure it's not more than 1080p.
Oh yeah. And speaking of those two upgrades I did to my iMac, they finally ditched spinning drives across the board. Now they all ship with SSDs by default.
Okay, that's good. Yep. No more Fusion drives.
And they've doubled the max RAM capacity in 27-inch to 128 gigabytes.
So that's the maximum capacity, 128 gig.
In the 27-inch.
In the 27.
Interestingly, and I guess I've just never shopped for a 21-inch iMac before, but the max configuration of RAM that you can get in a 21-inch iMac is only 16 gigabytes.
Not in this one, though. It's 32.
Oh, yep, up to 32 now. Yep.
So previously it was up to 16 gigabytes in a 21-inch.
Mm-hmm.
That is a pittance for a desktop computer. I know a lot of people don't need more than 16.
Sure.
I guess I'm talking myself into it. It seems... it does seem like a very low limitation in 2019 or whenever they started selling the previous generations. But
right.
Also, I don't think most people buying a 21-inch would probably need more than 16. It must have been some sort of architecture limitation, because if Apple could put more in there and upsell you with their sometimes ridiculous RAM prices, I'm sure they would have.
Right, and the 21-inch is the one to do it on, because the 27-inch has the RAM door, whereas the 21-inch needs a complete disassembly to add more RAM.
Ah, okay. So it's not soldered RAM, though, on the 21-inch?
No, it's not soldered. There's just no door on the back to get to it. So you've got to take the display and the power supply and everything out to get to the back side of the motherboard to put RAM on. Gotcha.
It's kind of an annoying decision that they made, that it is upgradable, but only if you really want to get in there.
It's completely anti-consumer in that they would do all that and just not put the door on the back like they have in the past and like they still do for the 27-inch ones. There's no reason.
So that's still the case today with the 2020 iMacs?
Well, it doesn't have a door, but I can't tell you whether or not it's soldered on after today's update.
Okay.
So, and then of course they upgraded to the 10th generation Intel processors.
Mm-hmm. That's probably what allowed the 32 gig of RAM in the small one.
Well, I'm sure that's what allows the 128 gigs in the large one. If they're running the same chipsets, though, I don't understand where that limitation comes from. Although I don't know if the 21 inches are actually updated to the 10th gen or if it was just the 27 inches.
Let me have a quick squiz at the old spec sheet.
Squiz?
Have I learnt you another word, mate?
Oh, okay. I was trying to determine if you were making that word up or if that's actually just an Australian thing to say.
Have a squiz.
Have a squiz. I like it.
I would say maybe SQIZ. Take a squiz out that window, according to Informal Australia New Zealand. A look or glance. The mechanic squizzed the plane's cargo. Yeah.
It does look like the 21 inches are still running 8th gen in the 4K models and 7th gen in the 1080p model. Who's buying a 1080p iMac in 2020? Libraries and schools, I guess.
Yeah, it's probably a hell of a lot cheaper. I haven't seen any of their prices, but I'm guessing that one hasn't even been updated, has it?
Probably not. I don't believe it got an update today.
Here we go. Okay, in Australian dollars, $1,700 for that non-4K model. And then it's $300 more to get a 4K model. Yeah, I think it's just people who are even just using these computers as like POS terminals or displays or in their restaurant or something like that. You know, people actually just buy iMacs sometimes as displays and they don't care. It's not 4K. They just want the cheapest iMac that they can get.
Right.
I guess for $1,700, it's Australian, so much less American. It's probably not a terrible computer. 256 gig of storage, 8 gig of RAM.
I believe that's probably new as of today, coming with an SSD as base, because I'm sure that would have been Fusion Drive.
Good point. Yeah, I guess if you just want the cheapest Mac you can get, cheapest all-in-one Mac you can get.
Yeah, it's plenty capable for, basic terminal stuff.
Can you hear that stupid dog out the window?
No, I can't hear a dog. Oh, wait. You just said it. Now I heard it.
Shut up.
Should have pointed it out. They've also upgraded to the newest generation of AMD graphics, the Radeon Pro 5000 series.
Nice. Okay.
So it looks like between 30 and 55% faster, depending on what tasks you're doing, which is a pretty big increase in graphics performance.
Yeah, that is pretty respectable.
Yeah.
27-inch features a graphics card with up to 16 gig of GDDR6 memory.
That's a ton.
That is a ton of graphics memory. Apparently it's up to 6 times faster than 8 gigabytes. So just the fact that you've got more of it also makes it a lot faster.
Right. And then just to touch on briefly what the iMac Pro update was, it seems minor. It seems like all they've done is drop the base configuration, the 8-core one, and now the base config is 10-core Xeon processor.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's a newer generation or what. All they've said is it now comes standard with 10 cores.
Was that about it for the iMac Pro?
Yeah, that was the only iMac Pro update.
Okay. There are a couple more things just back on the standard iMacs though that I saw that I wanted to point out. That you've got the nano texture glass option.
Right.
For the screens now. So that's coming from the Pro Display XDR. Was it $1,000 for the nano texture option?
I believe it was $1,000 upgrade.
And it came with a special cleaning cloth for the nano texture.
Right. So here on the iMac, it's a $500 upgrade. I haven't heard anything about the durability of this nano texture, and I assume that's because there's very few people in the world with a Pro Display XDR. So I think we're really going to hear in the coming months how durable it is or how susceptible to scratches. But fingers crossed, it's durable and makes it into their product line. I know that there's a lot of people out there that have been missing the matte display option since they dropped it like over a decade ago on their laptops.
That matte display option was an easy pick for anyone doing any sort of graphic design, which if a graphic designer is going to have a computer, there's a good chance it's going to be an iMac.
Right. The last time an iMac had a matte display was...
Never? Or plastic gen?
Yeah, not never. It'd be like the original Intel iMacs that were made of white plastic and just had a plastic screen.
You can just pull the glass off the front and just stare straight at the LCD if you wanted to, if you're that desperate.
Just never touch it.
Nope. Well, no one touches my computer screen, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah?
It's going to be a real... I'm going to have a real internal conflict if I get a Mac with a touch screen. Because one part of me is when I'm going to use it, and the other part's going to be like, no, you'd never touch a computer screen. Never.
Because you don't want to smudge it? Or you're just worried about damaging it?
Don't want any smudges, no fingerprints, no marks, no nothing. Don't tell me that you're a computer screen toucher.
No, I hate it. Especially working in an office environment where you call someone over and ask them a question and they go to point at something on your screen and like touch your screen.
Oh, the worst. And they've also, in the other hand, they've got like a packet of chips and their hands are like oily and like dripping with saliva at the same time, and they're like, oh, fix this code.
So I agree. And honestly, if a touchscreen Mac came out, I can't imagine much of a case where I'd feel inclined to touch it over using the cursor. I guess the real question would be, once iOS apps are running natively on the Mac, maybe there'll be more of a case for touching it then.
Yeah, sometimes you might have to.
Right.
Just another thing I want to talk about on the iMacs is that the 27-inch has the studio quality microphones now, which is nice.
Right.
So it's got 3 microphone array, and as we heard in the 16-inch MacBook Pro, they sound really good.
Yeah, they're pretty impressive. I would assume they can only be better when they have so much more space to work with.
Oh, right, yeah, because I bet a lot of the calculation would be based on like at what times like the audio is reaching each microphone to do the calculations, and just being further apart probably works in their favor.
Yeah, the further apart microphones are, the better they work for ambient noise cancellation as well.
Imagine not hearing that dog in the background 2 minutes ago.
You just go switch over to recording straight from the built-in mics.
Well, they sound pretty good.
Another thing worth noting is this new 27-inch iMac has the 10 gigabit Ethernet option now.
Oh, did they not already?
No, I believe it was only the Mac Minis you could get that on, and then the iMac Pro had it.
The Mac Mini had... Alright, so iMac Pros and Mac Minis. Yeah, okay, I think that's what I was thinking of. So the iMac Pros had 10 gig Ethernet.
So you actually have quite a few configuration options now when you're building yourself an iMac, between what kind of display you want, processor, RAM, graphics cards, storage, what type of Ethernet you want, and then of course the accessories it comes with.
And I wonder how that's going to translate when Apple Silicon Macs come out.
I hope that they take advantage of the fact that their processors will be so much cheaper to make all of the premium options standard when the Apple Silicon Macs come out.
But do you think you'll have options such as 3 different chips and 5 different graphics cards?
Well, I assume that graphics and processor is just going to be a single system on a chip. So the question will be, is Apple going to make multiple variants of their SoC that you can choose performance levels? I have no idea how they're going to approach that. I assume RAM will still be configurable. That's an easy one to keep. But I don't know if they're going to focus on like one standard configuration at first, or if they're going to go right out the gate with like multiple like whatever standard and then like professional level SoCs you can choose from.
I think we'll just have to wait and see. I'm not even confident enough to make a prediction on what it would be.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm kind of hoping that it's one standard configuration, because I'm itching to pull the trigger on a new laptop, and if I have to try to decide between 2 arbitrary processors that I have no idea how they actually compare in real world performance, it'd be a hard choice. I'd probably end up opting for the more expensive one.
Well, you could just wait and see, someone else might buy one and potentially post some results online.
James, how long have we known each other now?
The second they're available, you're going to buy one.
All right, you do know me.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on the iMacs?
I think that covers it.
You put in here that Apple is rumored to be interested in buying TikTok, and then updated that it was denied.
Yeah, this was a really quick turnaround this morning. It seemed like every publication was just this morning throwing out that Apple had been rumored to be throwing their hats into the ring to be buying TikTok, because it's been mostly Microsoft in negotiations. And like that was the news when I woke up this morning. And then within a couple hours of me being up, Apple's had made some kind of public statement saying they're actually not interested at all.
Now, I haven't really been following this because I don't really care about TikTok, but I did read one thing about Microsoft's purchase, because Microsoft released like a statement about their purchase of TikTok, and they had wording in there that was incredibly weird. Such things like, "We are committed to buying TikTok. Regards, thanks, Mr. President," stuff like this. Now, what did it say? We're committed to buying TikTok to preserve national security with the help of the administration or something. Did you see this article?
No, I did not see that Microsoft made a statement.
Yeah, you should definitely look it up. It is bizarre. Just the way that it's worded. It's like they were given a statement by the government to release, and they just did that. But if you were to take that at its word, Microsoft is seemingly going to buy TikTok, or at least some of it. Not TikTok worldwide, but the TikTok company that operates in the US, Australia, New Zealand, and India, I think. Like, not even all the English-speaking TikTok companies, but a selection.
There's been a lot of weird rhetoric around this purchase in my country in the last few days. I think the president came out a day or two ago and said that if Microsoft is able to successfully buy TikTok, they should also give a bunch of money to the government, because the government made it possible by threatening to ban TikTok if they didn't sell. Which
right, yeah, like paying a finder's fee to the government for buying a company.
Yeah, which sounds, I mean, just like a completely awful precedent to set, that if a U.S. company wants to buy another one, the government will just threaten to stomp them out of existence if they don't sell.
Yeah, you guys have got some weird stuff happening over there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to be determined if that's actually something that happens or is being seriously considered, or if that's just another thing the president said off the top of his head during a news briefing. But it certainly sounds morally questionable, if not outright illegal.
Right. So yeah, maybe the government released this rumor about Apple buying it instead, and Apple's like, "Ooh, no, not involved."
Seems like that wouldn't be helpful. It'd only inflate the price, right, if there was going to be a bidding war ensuing.
Yeah. But yeah, Microsoft wants that. I wonder if Microsoft buys it, will it just go away, like everything that Microsoft seems to buy?
I will say that Microsoft's been doing a little better with their acquisitions in the last few years.
What are some recent ones?
They bought LinkedIn, which they seem to mostly not hurt. One I've been very happy with is they bought GitHub, and they've done a really good job of not only adding features to GitHub, such as rolling out a GitHub mobile app, but also making some of the premium features of GitHub free. Yeah,
good call. Yep.
So yeah, under Satya Nadella, I believe I said that right. Their push to web and cloud services, I've just been impressed by all their Azure offerings. I work with every day at work, and I like quite a bit.
It's a different Microsoft from the one that purchased Skype, then, I guess, and let it slowly die.
Right. Although, what would a TikTok look like owned by Apple? Apple's social media efforts have never done well.
They rename it Ping Pong and build it into iTunes, even though iTunes doesn't exist anymore. And then they'd be like, "Why isn't this working?" And then they'd kill it.
Yeah, it does seem like if they're going to purchase something, I mean, if they purchase something, they always do it to integrate it with their platforms, right? So how would you have an integrated social network on your phone? That seems ridiculous.
Well, they could stick like stories at the top of the Messages app, for example.
Yeah, TikTok isn't quite like that in like Snapchat or Instagram functionality. It's more of YouTube, but with short videos. So it's more of a browse and recommended videos versus just the people I follow are sharing stories.
Maybe have like a browse tab in the Clips app, which everyone knows and loves and has installed.
Ooh. That wouldn't be an awful integration, actually. Clips is not great. But, yeah.
Full stop. Clips is not great. Full stop. I totally agree.
Show title.
I'm going to write that down, because every time we say, "Oh, that's the show title," and then I get to like the end of editing and I'm like, what did we say the show title was going to be? Then I have to go back and listen to the whole thing again. Phil Schiller steps down. I think that's probably the biggest news of the day. Bigger than new iMacs. Because Phil Schiller's been at the company for a long, long, long time.
Yep, since 1987.
Since 1987, the year I was born. Wow, okay.
Yeah, I have sitting in front of me right now a Macintosh SE that was released during Phil Schiller's first year at Apple.
Wow.
And to look at that and think about how far the company has evolved in those years, and the rocky times that he's stuck with them through is all the Gil Amelio years.
Yeah.
It's incredible that he stuck around. So, and then of course he was one of the handful of people on Steve Jobs' hand-picked team when he came back to Apple, and like, you guys are the good people, and we're going to bring Apple back.
And they did.
Yeah. And my first reaction to this news is, of course, sad to hear him leaving, and then the I don't want to call it spin, or the first commentary I read on it was saying that he's like the third or fourth Apple executive to leave in 2 years, and I'm like, oh, this is like a sign of a sinking ship. But reading into it more, and I mean, yeah, he's been with Apple for over 30 years. I think he's just ready to step down, and that's exactly what he expressed, and it makes complete sense.
Yeah, for someone to be able to dedicate that amount of time to one company, and imagine like the high level pressure that he's experiencing probably every day for a lot of those 30 years. It's just, a tremendous display of commitment.
Right.
And the way... so who are the other executives that have left in the last 3 years?
Well, Johnny Ive.
Did he really leave, though, in the last 3 years? I'd put it at more like 5 years.
Whatever, official, legally speaking, whatever. His name is not on the board of directors or whatever anymore.
Okay.
Angela Merkel? No, not Angela Merkel.
The Vice Chancellor of Germany, previously appointed by Apple. Chancellor, I think, not Vice Chancellor.
Right, but you know who I'm talking about. Angela, whatever her last name
Ahrens?
was in charge of Ahrens. Yeah, in charge of the stores.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a couple other names that I didn't recognize that seemed to be in charge of some smaller things.
When you look at like the core team that we know, though, Tim Cook, Phil Schiller, Craig, Eddie, you don't see much of him anymore, and Johnny Ive. Well, I think Johnny did leave earlier than Apple kind of announced, and now this is probably only number 2 in my books. So to call it like people leaving as sinking ships, I think going a little bit crazy.
Right. I think the only other major executive to leave before Johnny was Scott Forstall, in my opinion.
Okay. And he didn't leave a sinking ship.
He was kicked off.
He walked the plank, we'll say.
So, kind of speaking of Scott Forstall's departure, even though Phil Schiller has completely stepped down from his role in charge of worldwide marketing, they did specifically note that he's still in charge of the App Store, which I guess makes sense considering Apple's in the middle of so many anti-competitive lawsuits right now, mostly in Europe, but there's a couple cases going on in the US as well. And it'd be a terrible role for any new executive to have to step into right in the middle of all that. But also it makes me wonder if maybe they've left Phil here kind of as a scapegoat, right, for when things go down and someone needs to take all the blame.
Okay.
And
that's an interesting theory.
Right, he's gonna be the next Scott Forstall that's gonna get completely kicked off when everything, all the dust settles and lawsuits have been decided and everything else.
I wonder if that's his choice or it's just like a setup with him cooperating, I guess.
He's a voluntary sacrificial lamb.
That's what I was going for. Yeah.
He's like, I'm leaving, but as my last gift to you, I'm going to take the fall for this for you guys.
I love this company so much that I am willing to sacrifice my legacy.
Right. Well, no matter what, he's going to remain an Apple Fellow, which is a very exclusive. I think there's like 5 or 6 people total that are Apple Fellows. So he's still going to be held in high regard and probably still available to help out anywhere that's necessary if someone has a question or needs help deciding on a direction. But it's like if he's leaving anyway, he might as well take the fall for this, because it's not like he's leaving for another company. He's leaving to retire and pursue his own interests. Yeah,
when you read between the lines, he's retiring. He's pursuing other interests and family and such things.
Right.
And it's just very odd that he's still leading the App Store and Apple events. I'm guessing he's meeting like WWDC and other keynotes.
Right. We've been seeing less of Phil at keynotes, though. So I don't think this is all of a sudden. This seems like he's been gradually being phased out anyway.
Yeah.
So, although I assume that he had quite a bit of involvement, I'm sure he did actually lead this new WWDC this year, and he did an incredible job with that. So I'm happy he's staying on board to keep doing that. So his replacement, Greg Joswiak, it's known by Jaws internally. I saw a picture. I couldn't have pictured him just from seeing the name. There's a picture of him in the article, and I go, oh yeah, he's the guy that's on stage once every couple years. I recognize Jaws. I sure don't have much of an opinion on him, though, so we'll have to wait and see how that transition goes.
I'm in the same boat. I've certainly heard his name for years and years and years, and he's often on like the John Gruber talk show. So I've certainly seen his face because I normally watch that on video, on stage occasionally. I don't know why I don't remember him. He's certainly high up in the ranks and now in the highest ranks.
He's been at Apple for over 20 years, so he's got a lot of experience.
I guess he's just not as much of a memorable character.
Well, interestingly, it seems like the brief consensus I saw from reporters and journalists when the news broke is that they weren't fans of Joswiak. Apparently, their interactions with him, he was kind of aggressive or cold. I saw an interesting story. I think it was a reporter for the New York Times was on Apple's campus doing a story on something, and Joswiak pulled him aside to show him a prototype of an upcoming iPhone. He didn't say which iPhone it was, and I'm surprised at all they do this with journalists. I had no idea. But he says he showed him an iPhone, and Joswiak told him that this was it had the best screen on any cell phone. So I don't know what phone that would have been, but the reporter says that he pulled out, or the journalist says he pulled out his LG Android phone to like compare the screens, and Jaws got very insulted by that, to the point that even Apple PR reached out later and said it was the greatest affront to any Apple executive.
Well, that's a little bit sensitive,
right? And that's the only thing I've heard about him.
You can't even look at the competition. Well, it's an interesting anecdote, but it's not going to change my opinion until I hear quite a few more.
Right. So
he certainly comes across as fairly personable on the podcast that I've heard him talk. Maybe you know Phil or Craig, but certainly doesn't come across as like a cold Apple elitist or whatever you want to call him based on that story.
Yeah. I mean, and that could be totally made up. It was just a person saying they were a journalist recanting a story. It could have been someone completely making something up. But
pretty funny all the same.
Right. So, but I think I mean, Apple's marketing has always been top notch. So I'm anxious to see what direction it goes from here, but I think they're in good hands with someone who's been with the company for over 20 years and has been a significant presence for a long time.
Yeah, that's the biggest takeaway. Is that he's not some newcomer that's popping in. You know, he's not leaving Vogue or Yves Saint Laurent and joining Apple. He's been there already. So I think you would probably say that the team's in good hands.
Right.
Any other interesting topics for today? iOS Beta 14.
Yeah.
iOS 14 Beta 4, sorry.
I threw that in the show notes as soon as it went live, and then afterwards actually went in and looked through what's new in Beta 4. There's not a whole lot. There's a new TV widget, which... oh,
God.
Cool.
Apple's widgets
so now you can...
are the worst.
Right. Yeah, I'm not many other widgets I'm actually impressed by. The COVID-19 exposure tracking stuff has been brought into the beta that was already out in 13.6. So now people running the beta can do it, which is great because so many people use the beta now. That's actually a huge segment to be left out.
According to, I think it was Christian Selig's Apollo stats, it was something like 10% of his user base was on iOS 14.
Right. Yeah, that was the number. And then apparently some of the previous betas, 3D Touch was broken on devices that still have it, and now it's back. So,
cool. I wonder if it ever came to the iPhone SE. Long touch, haptic touch, I should say, not 3D touch. That was a minor controversy.
I feel like it should have, but I don't have any real knowledge of whether or not it actually happened.
When I was slamming the TV widgets before, I was actually thinking of the old-fashioned widgets. I actually have no experience with the iOS 14 style widgets, so I should probably reserve my opinion until I've actually used them. Just looking at screenshots of them now, they don't actually look too bad.
I mean, there's a lot of widgets that I don't understand why you need them. I definitely use a handful. I've got my calendar widget and weather, and I've got a top stories widget. But some things that Apple seems to push quite a bit, like built into the Smart Stack, and you have to manually remove it, is things like the Maps widget. I don't know why I'd ever want a widget just showing my current location on a map on my home screen.
No, the only Maps widget I would ever want is like your next location when it picks that up from calendar appointments and such.
Right.
Like a quick tap to open directions to that navigation. Yeah, I never want to see where I am now. I normally know that.
Some seem really useful, like the Notes widget just shows you the title of your most recently opened note. I don't understand why I'd want a widget for that. Photos widget is okay. It just shows you a highlight photo, random one from your photo library. Clock widget, I don't understand. You've already got the time at your top of your phone, and the clock icon is already a clock. So I don't know why you need another bigger one. So I don't know. I'm more interested to see what third-party developers do. I think those widgets are going to be much more impressive than Apple's.
Yep, I think there's a high chance of that. I'm looking forward to being insulted by Carrot Weather's widget.
Yeah, that's probably going to be a great widget. Although, I just recently ended my subscription with Carrot Weather. Now that Dark Sky is kind of built into iOS 14's weather. So I get things like hyperlocal, this is when it's about to rain and how long it's going to rain, and then it's going to stop in 15 minutes. That was the main thing I got out of Carrot. Although I may still keep it because the actual radar view is nice. I wish there was a radar view in the built-in weather app.
Okay. Yeah, I do love the radar view in general, but in Carrot Weather, the radar that's generated for where I am is never accurate and never compares to the actual Bureau of Meteorology government agency's radar, which is actually quite good.
I can't say I've ever compared Carrot to like the Weather Channel here in the US, but in my experience, it's always matched up really well with what the weather's going to be, so I think it's accurate.
I think that's about it for Beta 4. A few minor tweaks, but besides that coronavirus thing and the TV widget, that about sums it up. What do you think of stability now? Am I fine to install it?
I haven't had any issues with stability almost at all. An occasional respring, like once every few days, I'll notice my phone is respringing, but it's definitely not been an issue to the extent that it's hurting my battery life, and it's certainly never impacted any of the core function on my phone where I've like an app has crashed on me or I've lost a phone call or something like that.
Oh, that's good to hear. I might start considering installing it now.
Yeah, and now that it's been an hour, I can tell you that Big Sur will record for an hour without crashing. So
I'm fine to install that as well.
And I've played around with Xcode, so you can build apps and run the simulator and all that, and that works too.
Nice. Speaking of crashing, just a small side note here. That solid state drive upgrade in my MacBook Pro did not take at all. I was getting a kernel panic sort of crash every 24 hours. So
really?
I had to swap back to the Apple one. I wasn't the only person to note crashes for this particular model of SSD in a MacBook Pro either. So I think it'll just be the case of buying another model and trying that and see how it runs.
What kind of SSD did you use?
It was a WD Black, and the model was an SN750 1 terabyte.
Well, I can say that the Samsung SSD I put in my iMac has been solid, so I assume Samsung's probably a safe bet.
Yeah, but in an iMac, it's like a SATA SSD, is it not? Or am I way behind the times?
You're right, it is.
Yeah, like SATA is SATA is SATA, basically. But the MacBook Pros have like a M.2 NVMe, and to use just any old one, you have to have this like specific adapter that changes from like a 14-pin to a 12-pin and all this nonsense.
Right.
Yeah. It's not quite as plug and play. It's more of a plug and pray. How's that a blast from the past?
I've never heard that phrase before. Is that a common old phrase?
Classic. I'm gonna say Windows 95 or 98. They used to have. I'm pretty sure there's something in the operating system that referred to plug and play. It was possibly. No, I can't even think of specifically what it was. It was definitely referred to as plug and play by the OS.
Right.
And it quickly became known as plug and pray because there was a high chance of whatever you were doing wasn't going to work.
Is that their way of referring to like having generic drivers to support most like external devices?
Potentially. Or it could have been referring to like the hot plugging of things, so plugging in something while the OS was booted instead of having to shut down and plug something in as you would have had to do like pre-Windows 98
that's hot
or
swapping.
95 days. Hot swapping, yeah.
Yeah. Plug and play is a device with a specification that facilitates the discovery of a hardware component in a system without the need for physical device configuration. So it's like something that installs its own driver when you plug it in or something.
Yeah, so what you said then.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so it avoids the need for user intervention in resolving resource conflicts. So you didn't have to designate a, what are they called? IRQ port? Am I getting that right?
Right, or specify which slot number your cards are in or things like that.
Right.
Which was a real headache in the DOS days.
Yeah.
Not that I have much to speak to that.
No, me either, really. I mean, I was 8 when Windows 95 came out, so I wasn't doing too much with computers before that. Especially wasn't changing around expansion cards.
Well, I was 1 when Windows 95 came out, so...
You're a spring chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Did you download the Mac OS 8 app, now that we're talking about legacy computers?
I didn't download it for myself, but I watched some videos of people playing with it.
It's very good. It runs very quickly, fast enough that you can play Duke Nukem 3D at a reasonable frame rate.
Right. And so impressive to be built as an Electron app running Mac OS 8.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if you're being sarcastic.
What? No, I'm...
Normally we deride Electron for those things.
Right. Yeah, that's why I'm impressed.
Oh, okay, cool. Written entirely in JavaScript and then wrapped, do you say, in Electron?
Yeah, I guess you could call Electron a wrapper. It's just a local browser environment, so you could wrap it, I guess.
Well, it's a fun little thing to tinker around with if you can spare a 200 megabyte download in a couple of minutes.
That's a pretty big ask.
I'll watch what I ask you for next time.
So it could be a useful tool for people who, I don't know how many people like this exist, but need to get old files transferred for some reason from an old Mac environment. They could use this as an intermediary.
Yeah, could do.
I've got machines at my house that were built to run Mac OS 8. So if I want the authentic experience, I'll just turn one of those on.
Oh, that'd be great. Do you do that? Do you get compelled to do that very often?
Not really Mac OS 8. I've got a really spec'd out Macintosh SE with like an accelerator card in it and a bunch of games on there, and it runs Mac OS 7. So
you bust out that one occasionally.
Right. Yeah, if there's a Mac I'm going to pull out, it'll probably be that one. But even that's kind of sad on the wayside because it's kind of a process to pull it out and then dig through my keyboards for a nice ADB keyboard and a mouse, and then I get it all booted up just so I can play like Klondike Solitaire or something on there, or Load Runner.
Which you could probably get running on a modern computer, couldn't you? Through some sort of emulation. DOSBox maybe. No, OpenEMU, sorry.
Yeah, you could get any of this to run. So it's just kind of fun to be on the actual hardware sometimes.
Oh yeah, I bet. Is now when we bring up iJustine's quiz.
Oh yeah, did you want to talk about that?
Not really.
That's so long ago.
I'm afraid for my own self.
You're afraid for yourself?
I'm afraid for being exposed as a phony Apple enthusiast.
I was kind of harsh in my take on it.
So just for the audience, there was a YouTube video of iJustine, the prolific Apple YouTuber. She just asked to name, was it 10 or 11 Apple products? 12 Apple products of varying age. And she ended up with 50%, I think it was, which was a pass mark.
Right.
And you were just tearing her apart.
I mean, so this was on Austin Evans, which I think we've mentioned recently. His secondary channel called This Is. We also recently complained about him in his ranking of Apple products.
Oh, that was the same guy.
Same guy. So, in my mind, the products that he showed her and asked her to name were all iconic products in the history of Apple. It wasn't like they pulled a bunch of beige boxes from the early 90s and asked her, which power Macintosh is this or something like that. Mm-hmm. They were all very, very unique products. So I was disappointed that someone who is supposed to be, who is like the most prolific Apple enthusiast on YouTube was unable to recognize most of them, because most of her 50% came from just guessing within a margin of error about what year they came out, which in my mind is probably easier to do than naming them.
Oh, really? I'd probably put it the other way around. I'd have a real struggle naming the year for anything. Like, even if you told me like what year was the 2008 iMac released, I'd be like, 2007? Probably.
Yeah, I think I said this to you at the time, but I'm sure this is mostly me being a gatekeeper for the Apple enthusiast community, and is ridiculous stance to take.
Yeah, you got to watch yourself there, buddy.
So, but like some of the products she wasn't able to name was the Pippin. Were you familiar with the Pippin prior to this?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, really? Okay.
No.
This might just be me. The Pippin is of course one of Apple's, I say of course, not of course, is Apple's failed attempt at making a game console in the 90s. That was really just like a condensed Macintosh that plugged into the TV, and so it ran a few Mac games and had a weird controller. Another one she wasn't able to name was the 20th anniversary Macintosh. Was that something you recognized?
Oh, yeah, I could name that one.
Okay, cool. Yeah, an iconic design. One of, I want to say one of Johnny Ive's best, but I wouldn't say best in terms of it being super pretty, but definitely the most unique, like a complete, just on its head. What would a futuristic computer look like for someone in the late 90s? And the answer was a flat panel display, which was still super, super unique at the time, and a keyboard trackpad that looks like it's just the bottom half of a laptop to plug in, and that's your interface with the computer, and a really nice, like, Bose provided sound system. It was a really impressive computer at the time, and worth a bunch of money, even still today. What was another one she couldn't name? The Quick Take 100. Did you know about the Quick Take?
I know that one. I can't picture what it actually looks like right now. What was that?
It's pretty interesting.
100.
It looks like a pair of binoculars. But of course another niche category that Apple tried to get into in the 90s, digital cameras. But it was also one of the very first, if not the very first, consumer digital camera. So another area that Apple was kind of pioneering, but either was ahead of their time or
the 200. Now that's something I'm definitely familiar with, but the 100 just doesn't ring any bells for me.
The 200's the more standard digital camera looking device.
Right, it just looks like a camera.
Right.
Kind
yeah,
of.
the 100 is like, this is new territory. What does that look like? Let's start with like a pair of binoculars. Like, this is what a camera should look like. Which
it looks like a little projector.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's another iconic piece of Apple's history. Although I'm really into those niche 90s products, I guess. The Newton message pad, I don't think she was able to name either.
Yeah.
So, which I think, I don't know, you could probably recognize a Newton, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I was like, that has a lot of influence today. As a matter of fact, some of the scribble features from the Newton have just been introduced in the iPad this year. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and well, Newtons ran ARM, didn't they, as well?
That's right, yeah. As a matter of fact, I think you brought up in a show months and months ago that the Newton is actually what propped up ARM and saved it from bankruptcy at some point, right?
Yeah, it was kind of falling by the wayside, been through a couple of owners, and then Apple was looking for something for the Newton and ended up buying a huge stake in ARM. And then that, in turn, helped prop up Apple through the tough late 90s because ARM had taken off and their stake had, quadruplified, whatever that word is, in value, had hugely increased in value, and they were able to sell off some of their stake,
right,
for cash flow.
Yeah. So I don't know. A lot of these products aren't popular, but I think they're important in the history of Apple, especially the Newton, and so to be a YouTube or an Apple YouTuber and not know that is silly to me. The Macintosh TV was one as well.
Oh, yeah, okay. I was going to say the fact that she couldn't name a time capsule / Airport Express and thought it was a Mac Mini was a little odd. But then if you quizzed me on that, I could tell you what it was, but I certainly couldn't tell you anything about what year it was released. Could well have been 2001 or 2010 for all I know.
Well, in 2001, the Airport Express kind of looked like an alien spaceship.
That's right, the little... Yeah.
Or Airport... I think it's maybe the Airport Extreme. I don't remember.
Extreme, yeah, not Express.
But, yeah, so I could give you a ballpark at least if you show me the design of one. Yeah, I agree that it was very silly to look at an airport / time capsule, depending on... You can't tell from the exterior, really. And say, yeah, it looks like a Mac, or she even mentioned at one point, like, this kind of looks like an iPod, or... I don't know.
It looks like the originals weren't named Extreme
just
or
Airport.
Express. They were just called Airports. Actually, no, there was an Extreme by that design, which came a bit later. And it signified that it had 802.11G.
Man, G is extreme.
Oh, sure is. Crikey. Man, I love the Airport Expresses. They were such great little boxes. Especially the ones that just went straight into the wall socket without any cables.
Right. And they always had the audio out for AirPlay, and the Extremes didn't. Yeah. I always hated that.
Yeah, like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
It's because the Express was intended more as like a peripheral device for the Extreme, which might like live in the cupboard next to the internet connection.
Right. Yeah, and the Express was more of a range extender.
Yeah. But yeah, so she got 50% in the end.
Yeah.
Not too respectable, but not embarrassing either. In my books. I'm sure you would say it's embarrassing.
It's probably fair. I'm definitely probably looking at it from the perspective of I don't know about biased, but just someone whose whole life is being a fan of Apple and their old products, and I collect them, and that'd be unfair to expect someone to know all about the history of Apple.
Yeah, maybe.
They should have us on the show, and we could knock that quiz out.
You could knock that quiz out. I would I would give you some wrong dates or wrong names and things. I'm sure you would do excellently. I'm sure you would get 100%. In fact, I should probably devise a quiz for you sometime. Probably wouldn't translate well over podcast, but...
You are going to send me a bunch of beige boxes and ask me what year they came out?
Yeah. I'll make the hardest ever quiz. Actually, I'm just going to send you the logic boards of them, not even the external.
If you did like the original line of compact Macs, I could probably tell you from their logic board, but anything past that, there's no way.
No, it's going to be modern Macs.
Oh, man. I'd probably be going off of size of logic board more than anything else.
Are we interested in talking about any of the other topics that I put in there?
I was a bit interested in this, that they're sold out of the 5K LG ultrafine displays, just because I've recently bought the 4K variant and thought it'd be a good excuse to say how much I love it. I'm extremely impressed by the ultrafine display.
Is it a solid replacement for an Apple display of similar spec that might exist? I worded that strangely.
Like what?
If Apple made that same thing, is this a solid alternative? If
Apple had a competing display, I would only imagine that it'd be more expensive, and they'd have to have some pretty compelling features. I don't even know what they would be in order for me to justify spending the extra money on top of this LG 4K, because it has, I mean, it's got a great adjustable stand with tons of room for vertical adjustment. It's got the built-in Thunderbolt hub so that you can charge your device from it and plug all your devices into the monitor for one cable usage. It's just beautiful. It's a 4K display, which I thought I was hesitant to get compared to the 5K because I'm used to the 5K on iMac, but I love the 4K display. Even the screen size is totally usable. I think it's 23 inches. So a little bit step down from my 27 inch, but still feels like I have tons of screen real estate. Yeah, I can't say enough nice things. It's a beautiful display. I'm really happy with it. So I really don't know what Apple could offer above and beyond this that'd make an extra cost justified.
Probably just a slightly more Apple-y exterior.
Right, make it out of metal instead of plastic.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, if the past cinema displays are anything to go off of, if Apple had a similar monitor in the exact same price range, because cinema displays in the past were $1,000, I'd probably opt for the Apple one just to have a similar design aesthetic across the board. Yeah, I have no complaints about this display at all.
Any theories as to why they might be sold out of the 5K ones then?
I mean, supply chains are limited across the world right now. Even Apple's having to delay the shipment of the iPhone 12 this year. I don't think there's a lot of controversy or theory around it. If Apple was phasing this out in favor of their own display with similar specs at the same price point, that's great. I'd love to have an Apple branded thing, but I really think it's just supply constraint issues right now. Or maybe LG's refreshing the display. They've refreshed it once before, and it was out of stock for a few days as a result of that. So, but I'm certainly not offended I don't know. I'm not disappointed that Apple got out of the display game when this great partnership with LG was the result, and they've made some incredible displays.
Yeah. Save a bit of money. And Apple gets to make a Pro Display XDR.
Yeah, if they took the Pro Display XDR technology and scaled it down for consumer display, that'd be really cool. But it'd still be hard for me to I wouldn't be able to justify spending my money on that. I don't do any real video or photo work. I'm sure there's lots of people that could benefit from it, but I do my day-to-day job on 3 1080p displays, and I'm completely happy with that. So clarity or resolution or whatever bump means very little to me in practice when I'm mostly just reading, code.
And your point of XDR being like coming down to more consumer level. Well, it seems like some of the tech already has today with the nano texture from the XDR coming into as an option on iMacs.
Right.
So we might see that expanded to some of the other specs or designs from the XDR.
Right. Yeah, I think the textured glass is probably the easiest thing to bring down, right? The thing that makes extreme dynamic range is the higher contrast ratio, right?
Yeah, yep. And couple that with the constant extreme brightness that it can achieve.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think you could put that in an iMac. Although the iMacs are actively cooled, so maybe you could.
Maybe. That might actually be the best candidate for it, since it's already got fans in it. Whereas if you have to build a standalone display with fans on the consumer level, that would be weird.
The XDR does have fans, doesn't it? I'm fairly
Right.
sure.
It does.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Shall we call it a show?
I think so.
All right. I'm James VDM on Reddit and Twitter.
And I'm Jellyboot on Reddit and Twitter.
And you can find us on our subreddit, reddit.com/r/the/r-apple-show, and on YouTube, youtube.com/c/xz764397. I'm just bullshitting.
I thought you were actually reading that out.
No. As I was starting to make up stuff, I thought, wow, I should actually have the link here so I could be reading it. But no. I'm sure if you just go to YouTube and type in the r/Apple Show, you'll find our channel fairly easily.
All right.
And now I'm just going to check you can do that. All right. Cheers. Actually, there is an Apple Show and it's not us. Jeez.
What?
That's embarrassing.
On YouTube?
Yep. It's not Apple. I think it's Rapple.
What?
And it's Russian, and it has one video from 6 years ago.
How did you find... Oh, there is... I see. It's got like a Minecraft character.
Yeah.
Weird.